I was having a good day until I had to, be a boss. So I fucking hate that. I just let someone go. So,
Oof.
yeah. So,
Who's that?
I don't want to say, that's for that individual to have his time to let folks know, and then I'd probably make a grander announcement. Feel like this is a
100%
professional
fair.
thing to do.
You don't think there will be any retaliation, do you?
You never know. But I'm not too concerned.
Yeah. Well, if it feels like your safety might be a threat, let us know.
Yep.
I'll make sure to look into it.
So, how can I help you today?
I'm actually looking for a little political guidance, as weird as that might sound.
Okay.
You seem to be pretty on the ball with this shit. It looks like lately I'm coming up with a lot of people are coming at me about accusations and things like that I don't really understand where it's coming from, and maybe you have some insight because I know everybody talks to you.
Accusations about you?
Yeah, about me. Apparently saying that I'm having Angel change charges for me, and that's the most bullshit nonsense thing.
Wait, you have Angel making...
No, that's the claim. Is that people are... I've been confronted by it by people of Cyprus, by motorcycle club people, and all kinds of shit. Saying
really?
that I'm having Angel change charges so that I can make it fit something. And I'm like, that's not how the law works. You literally can't charge someone with a crime that comes out after you've committed the crime.
The issue is that you are a member of law enforcement, and you are living in a city that has probably that has citizens that 80% of which probably have felonies, 99% of which are probably associated through relationship, friendship, etc. with felons. A city in which cops such as Ventura are dating members of gangs. Like Ventura is dating Cassie, where officers are looking the other way and allowing their significant others and gangs shoot up their rival departments.
Right.
So where I'm going with all this is you, Barrett, come across as, and I'm not trying to glaze you here, but you come across as someone that tries to do the right thing, right? In other words, you're trying to uphold the law and press charges in the way that you believe is best fit.
Which I do.
Right?
Which
and
I
then
do.
you let the courts handle it. And I strongly believe that. I genuinely do. But the reality of the matter is that other members, and this is my allegation, right? Don't have time to substantiate it all. But having been around for as long as I have, I can tell you that most law enforcement do not operate in the way you do. And as such, what happens is that there may be actions that you take that are looked at through the lens that is dirtied by your peers. So
that's fair. I know most cops don't like me. I mean, I sit around and I have this new UC truck. I've been pulling over cops left and right, pissing them all off.
Well, I mean,
they're all morons driving like dipshits through the city, and then they want to pull traffic stops on other citizens, and it's like, how are you going to enforce this law when you break it yourself? It's the most asinine thing.
Exactly. I almost passed like slow down and go, because I felt the exact same way. It's like it's weird, right? It's just, it doesn't make any sense. If you're going to enforce the law, you need to first abide by that same law.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it's draconian. Yeah.
I'm going to be straight with you.
Yeah.
There's something that's probably about to happen on the docket that I might get. There's a potential I might either get fired or I'll never see a promotion ever again.
If I operated under fear, nothing would happen. I have a lot of enemies, Barrett, because I speak my mind. And I do things that others are too afraid of due to backlash. Don't ever be afraid.
I'm not afraid I'm going to have to do it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And I've served my time. You know, I did 34 years in Bolingbroke for stupid mistakes I made. And I learned my lesson. I'm not going to make these mistakes again, but I'm also trying to make sure that no one else makes these mistakes again. But the announcement made yesterday by the DOJ with the changes to legislation brought up a pretty concerning issue, and I have major charges on the docket right now that I'm going to have to drop. I'm just going to warn you up front, because I'm assuming you're probably going to be the mayor, but there's big ones that are going to have to disappear, because come to find out, the charge was changed after I pressed the charges for him.
The weapons manufacturing.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with this. Yeah. Is that where you're getting the hate from?
I assume so.
Oh, Lord.
Nobody said specifically, but here's the problem, Nino. There's no official documentation of what the charge was prior. Only that it was changed. So I can't press the charge because there's no paper trail to determine what the charge was prior. So it's, as far as I'm concerned, in the eyes of the law,
this is our guy.
That charge came into effect on the 30th. How can I charge somebody for a crime that came into effect on the 30th for something that happened on the 24th? Oh, my God. I can't, because there's no actual paper trail. As far as everything, I mean, yes, it's named the same. A lot of the verbiage is the same. It's not the same thing
to it.
The law has an exact form in that way. It is weapons manufacturing like this was the law before. Now it's weapons manufacturing like this is this law now. It may be the same name, but it's not the same law.
Do I trust them?
So if I don't have a record, an official record of what that law was beforehand,
what if I were to tell you
doesn't exist, I can't charge them.
What if I were gonna? What if I was gonna tell you that what you're discussing right now is something that I was actually also going to be pushing to the docket, and it wasn't just that. What you're describing is, how much do you remember of the conversation we had at the resort?
I'm going to be honest, I've slept a couple times since then, and I did pull a 36-hour shift a couple days ago, so my brain's still trying to recover from that one.
Let me sort of remind you of some of the points, and this may highlight, like, sort of why I'm in alignment with your thinking. I had been, while in office, holding a lot of demons, let's say, not my own, but that of what I believe to be issues within the government that needed to be rectified in one way or another.
Well, it's politics in general. That's going to be a pretty common issue.
Yeah,
we're never going to have a perfect government. You're always going to have to deal with those major issues, and they're going to come to you needing help, because that's part of how how a community works.
And the rectification, there's often a handful of paths. One is conversation, but let's say there's a conflict, a disagreement. The only path forward is through it hearing the light of day in court. So in that meeting at the resort, I tried to highlight that there was about 35 pieces of legislation that were shadow edited by the justices. A shadow edit that I will, and you can see the full list on lossantos.me. An article written by the ex-lawyer, now lawyer again, Moose Knuckles. Now,
I like Moose. He's representing a client, or representing somebody I'm going after.
He's absolutely fantastic guy. He, him alongside a bunch of us, first came to note. So what had happened, the timeline was as follows. About 2 months ago, my team and I wrote somewhere around the effect of 12 to 15 pieces of legislation over a course of 3 days. 15-hour days over 3 days, maybe even 4. reports, writing, reviewing, etc. The intent of which was to, get the most basic pieces of legislation in place, business, tax, etc., etc. So we could spend the next of the term actually getting work done, right? Getting businesses, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Subsequently, what had transpired was while at the food court, while at the food court, Justice Angel, and I know this because eyewitnesses, let individuals know that these laws had been passed and seemingly may have encouraged the food court to take up arms, and not like with guns, but to have umbrage with it, because some of it referenced food courts. This one of them, Ursula Leichenberg, told her, hey, I can't contest this is too expensive, and Angel then removed the fee associated with contesting. That fee was there to prevent, let's just say, oh man, what's the word? I'm not malicious. Yes, malicious over contesting. Because and
which
now it was
I can
only
very well see.
Yep, and it only now needed 25 votes. Now all of a sudden, that night, 6 contests were made. 2 from between Ursula Leichenberg and Nakota, a member of the BCSO, who is also dating the deputy mayor, Eve Summers. And so I woke up late at night to, hey, this is now up on the ballot. So we got fucked in the ass, and we had to spend the next 3 days campaigning to allow businesses to move forward. Our issue at the time was, how are you going to change contest legislation in the midst of
how would, like, in the middle of all that, like, while somebody's doing it?
Exactly.
I totally get that.
But that led us to find that it wasn't just that legislation. There was 20 plus that had changed. I brought that to your attention the next day. There was an email stating, hey, by the way, we made all these changes over the last 2 months.
Oh, okay. Well, I see how you while you were asking me, did I tell anyone about that?
Yes, because you, like, look, I'm going to be honest with you, Barrett. It's hard to trust marshals when they work for the person that you have issues with, right? And then these issues aren't personal. It's more like, if I have there's a conflict with, right? You're the boss of somebody I'm saying did something that I do believe is illegal, unjust, whatever you want to call it, right? And I could be wrong about it, but it's still awkward.
Yeah, I get you. But that's probably the problem with the perception is, even though we're police and we should be treating this like a job, I'll tell you, from my observations as a marshal looking at other law enforcement, including even some other marshals, is that a lot of these people treat it like another damn gang.
They do.
And they have this unwavering loyalty to people who are seen as the leadership of their gang. And it's very... When I got back into this position, from what I had done, I made that determination that I was not going to fall into place. I have no loyalties. My loyalties are strictly to the general populace of San Andreas and myself. And I want to do the best I can and use the skills I have to further that means. Now, I will say that might have been ironic timing, because I have been harping. I think we even talked, because we talked about how there's been edits and things like that.
Yeah.
And I picked up on some of them, but I have been harping on other people saying we need a log. There needs to be a change log.
I've been saying the exact same thing, because
which is brought up to this point where I have to drop the weapons manufacturing thing, because we don't have a dedicated exact log of when things were changed. I don't have an official log of the verbiage of what manufacturing was before, so I can't charge people with it.
What if I told you that it's even worse? Is that there was a incident in which law enforcement decided to give a lower time and time. They gave a time reduction to some folks from like 900 months down to like 500. Now, that discretion has sort of existed for some time. Whether right or wrong, who knows, right?
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, this led to what I believe to be the Den Act,
the Den Act or whatever
coming into place. Yep.
And there was a time where it went away, and then it came back. And
Well,
it was a big mess.
Justice Bailey removed it because he never conferred on it. And then it was brought back the day after he stepped down. Now, I'm sure there's politics to it, not concerned. But the issue was that myself and Andy Jones were pointed at as being the arbiters of the fine and time slider. We have control. Andy had the time slider. I had the fine slider. This was well known by the justice. I subsequently, because this is in the midst of the South Side getting really upset because members of Blain County were baiting them, going into food courts and saying, "Come at me, Lang Buddha." In the middle of a food court.
I got calls about that. I actually got called down and watched it happen one time in the barrio.
What? You're talking?
Yeah, I know where BCSO were going down and instigating fights from Southside gangs.
Yes.
So that they could, because they were trying to get suspects so they could drag them up to Blain County Sheriff's Office
and make money.
And make money off it. Yeah, I actually brought this up as an issue. And I tried to bring this up where I was like, hey, I was going to go after people from Blain County for fraud and embezzlement. They were embezzling. Technically, it was embezzlement. It was textbook embezzlement. Is when you break it down to the whole theory, legal theory, and philosophy of law and justice. What are fine and times? A fine for a crime is reparations for the people to recuperate damages done to the community. And so if a crime is committed in Los Santos County citizens are the ones who want to seek reparations.
Yes.
By you taking that suspect to Blain County and taking that fine, you are taking away the reparations from Blain County and taking away from Los Santos County and giving it to Blain County.
Yeah.
That is literally embezzlement. You are taking money that is already earmarked for Los Santos County and sending it to Blain County. And I was shut down on that one. But I was also a rookie marshal, so I literally couldn't do anything.
What you are describing right there is something that I was trying, is one of the main reasons that I think a lot of people in Blain County have an issue with me, is because most of our grievances stem from that. Is that it is so, how do I put this? I can be very good with words. I've been a lawyer for some time, but there's, politics has never really been my strong suit. So the way you worded it, I could never word it. I just know deep down this is like common sense, right? But sometimes common sense is hard to frame it the way that you just did. That was effectively my problem, right? I see it worse than that is now, if you go down as law enforcement into the barrio and sort of instigate an over-escalation, if those suspects escalate, right, be it a shootout, etc., are they right for doing so? No, absolutely not. But are those that have escalated done so under good faith? I would say it's not. And if it is tied,
charge.
Yes, and it is tied when. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say we have a charge for that. There's literally a charge for that. There's a criminal charge in our penal system for that.
What is it called?
It's like criminal threats.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Actually, that's actually a really good
criminal
point.
Threats. It's not criminal threats. It's harassment. Intimidates or pressures another person aggressively with unwelcome words, deeds, or actions or gestures. Basically, the intent is that you're using verbiage to incite that will incite violence or a response. Not violence, but you are using verbiage
Chad,
or
this
actions
needs
that
to be
will
my next
incite a
new
response.
spot.
It's literally a charge that we have. And that's literally what they were doing. Is they were doing it. They were trying to use actions
reminds
and
me
words,
of
knowing, with the knowledge, premeditated knowledge, that it would cause a response. That's literally a crime.
Yeah. And then when you tie that to the fact that when those things happen, and let's be honest here, the Blain County, their budget was dog shit. They got nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, they overhired.
So
That's not our problem.
They
hired too many cops.
overhired. Exactly. You hire for what you need. And so they get bored. They need money. They need interceptors. They come down here, instigate escalation, because if those criminals shoot, it's times whatever cops are on scene. And you bring them up north, and boom, boom. Now you got a lot of money.
Yeah, that's. I argued that point too. That was the argument that I got back was, well, Blain County has all these officers they need to pay for, and I was like, well, it sounds like they're not managing their budget correctly, because you should be hiring the number of people to match the amount of activity, the criminal activity you have up there. There's a balance there. You have to find it. You can't just hire every Tom, Dick, and Jill with a badge just because you want to when you don't have the financial means to support it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think it goes even more extended. Did you know that I don't know how much of there was a contest on Monday presented by Blain County Sheriff's Office, and it's one that I think you might want to take a little look at. This saga it's interesting. So Chief Daisy had 2 of her officers get shot by members of Blain County. The first one was down in the barrio about 2 months ago. I believe it was Jimbo Sutton who had been leading the scene. And there was a guy named like Jamal Hernandez, like the 15th or some shit. And he was holding up a member of the Vagos. There was a standoff. Vagos were present, their friends being held up by this guy. Blain County's there, LSPD's there, whatever. This Jamal Hernandez, the 13th, I don't know his exact name, ends up shooting the member of the Vagos and then doesn't do anything to him. They let it happen.
Oh.
And the Vagos are like, are you going to do something? Like, why are you just standing there? Why you're not doing anything? And they just kind of chuckled it off.
Oh,
and as a consequence, the Vagos ended up taking matters into their own hands. Because they're like, how are you going to let this guy just murk one of our friends and just act like it's jokes? So they opened fire, leading to the death of LSPD officer Blackwell. She died that day. Then later that month, Officer Captain Cornwood ended up shooting another LSPD officer dead.
Yeah, that one's on the docket right now.
Yep. And they decided not to do anything. It gets worse.
Yeah, the marshals had to press charges on him.
Now, I don't know if there's truth to this, but the rumors are that there is someone by the name of Helen who put a gun to somebody in ICU into a fucking mouth and went through her phone.
I think there's a marshal currently investigating that one, so I can't speak too much of it. No offense.
No.
That one is being looked at right now.
And I don't want to go deep into that either, because I don't even know if it's true. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know the truth behind it. I can't speak on the things, because it isn't. I will tell you, there is an active investigation into that accusation.
So, as a consequence of this pattern behavior, right? Because I'm over here as the mayor of Los Santos, Daisy's the chief, and we're trying to, people, my constituents are counting on us to have a semblance of like law and order, right? And a semblance of feeling like they can trust the police, because that's what I want. I want people to trust the cops enough to know that they're not going to get shot in the back of the head or, egregiously, pushed to the ground and mistreated. after all these when the combination of what happened to the LSPD officers and no like recourse, and with this gangs being escalated, like the thing with the food court and blah 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 blah.
Right.
She ended up empowering LSPD to start having jurisdictional control as legislator. The contest happened on Monday. The contest was filed and paid for by BCSO, and later it was on the docket noted by Mr. Bruce O'Connor or some shit that he is now claiming that he filed it as a citizen. It was filed stating that they are we the people. At the end of that court case, the ruling did not go in line with what is written in legislation, which is contests are a matter of whether or not legislation is constitutional or not constitutional. Instead, that legislative audit was used to say, you know what, we're going to just go and revisit and rewrite it. What I'm trying to paint to you here, Barrett, is there's a lot of things unwritten. There's a lot of things written but not followed.
Yeah, I agree. That's too damn big. Nobody. It's so TLDR right now, and cops are so under motivated to learn. There's no reason they want to learn it, and it's unorganized. And we have a constitution in its infancy. This is completely in its infancy. It's less than 5 months old, less than 4 months old.
Yep. And it's already being the ass is already being wiped with it, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
But that's where folks like you come in, right? So as much shit as you might get for whatever it is that you're looking to do, or the shit that you might be getting in regards to the claims being made about you about weapons manufacturing, at the end of the day, I have always felt that if you don't have enemies, then, or you don't have people that look at you like an enemy or as a problem, then you're probably not doing anything worth talking about.
That's true. I mean, you can't be in this position in politics or in law enforcement or any kind of public service and please everybody. It's literally impossible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Public service is about pleasing the majority, not everybody, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong about that. When are you posting this thing up?
I need to contest. So I've got a appeal up right now on a double jeopardy claim, which, dear God, for the sake of everyone in this city, I hope I can overrule this double jeopardy claim, because otherwise it's going to make everybody's life hell. Are you familiar with this whole double jeopardy thing that's going on right now?
I have a lot of constituents that tell me a lot of things, so I'm very familiar with it. I speak to everybody. So
yeah, so the TLDR, that BCSO was raiding a warehouse. They were preparing to raid a warehouse. They had it locked down. You know, they can secure a facility prior to getting a search warrant while they're writing the search warrant up, right? And before they could breach the warehouse, because they didn't have a signed search warrant yet, they were securing the facility, trying to write one up.
Yeah.
And they had actual BCSO and LSPD units around the building trying to secure it. People walked up to the building who apparently had access to the building and refused to follow orders that the police officers were like, hey, you need to stay away from that. You need to stay away from that. We have it under security. This is police. You are not authorized to go in there. We have it locked down. And they went inside anyway. Well, the officers hot pursued because they were disobeying peace officers. And when they hot pursued, they saw evidence, basically further evidence in plain view of literally the proceeds of their Maze Bank robbery. The whole thing was over a Maze Bank robbery, and they literally had the duffel bag and all the gold bars laying on the floor 10 feet inside the front door in plain view. And this idiot let the police hot pursue him into the building. That's all public knowledge. That's all on the docket. And they arrested the guy. They put the guy under arrest they actually captured one of them and put him in handcuffs. And they were like, hey, you breached the line. So they got him in handcuffs. They processed him for the possessions he had on his person at that time. So it was like disobeying the possessions he had on him, which was like 1,500 bags of marijuana and stuff like that. and they processed them and sent them off. And they still held them. Now that they had this new evidence to go for their search warrant, they were able to start rolling the search warrant down. So
the arrest was for the disobeying and the charges that came afterwards.
Yes,
the docket charge was in regards to the bigger set of charges pertaining to the warrant, etc.
Exactly. The
and therefore there's no fruit of the poisonous tree as a consequence of that's after the fact. The main set of charges are for the raid.
It's a completely separate event. So when the judge declared it as double jeopardy, saying that it was in regards to the same situation, it has a completely different beginning, middle, end, separate, a whole different set of intended actions by the actors. So what that has told and signaled to the police departments, by the judge declaring that double jeopardy, they are now under the impression that anyone involved in like if they're raiding a building and anyone involved gets arrested anywhere around there, they now have to place them on a 72-hour investigative hold.
So
that is not good for anybody. That if you were just caught getting anywhere near that for whatever reason,
it'd be good for anybody. It'd be good for criminal elements.
What, to be put on a 72-hour hold?
If you could save your warehouse by just shooting a singular cop while they are holding the building and they get charged, right? Because I'm running off the logic of cops are going to keep doing dumb shit. So you just shoot a cop that's holding a warehouse, let them charge you, and now it's double jeopardy.
Well, yeah, basically, yeah. They'll let them, but that's the thing, is that this is what cops are turning to. Instead of charging you now because they want to claim it double jeopardy, because that's been declared, cops are not charging anyone for anything regarding those buildings until they can complete
how it used
the
to
search
be.
warrant. But it kind of not really.
So,
but now it's literally anyone gets caught doing anything, you get put on a hold for 3 days. That's not going to make anyone happy.
Well, you don't need to hold them.
That's what they're doing.
What? Wait, who's been put on a hold?
I've so far headed off all of them. So at the moment, I've been involved in a couple of search warrants that happened where we had people involved in it.
Yeah.
And I was like, just don't charge them with anything. We're just going to let them go. And they were like, why? We need to put them on investigative hold. And I was like, there's no reason for it to be a hold.
You don't need a hold.
Got them kicked out.
The hold would only be necessary if you needed to like raid them.
That's the problem, is they're like, we don't have the information. It could become a chain raid. And that's the problem, is like, depending on what's found inside that property, anyone involved in that property that's provably involved in that property could see all their properties raided. But it takes so long. I don't know if maybe someday we need to bring you on a ride along with one of these raids to see how long it takes to do these raids.
I'm very familiar. I've been out, like I said, I got SMEHDI off on him. Brother, I had a court case where SMEHDI was found with a weapons bench, guns coming back to the bench, materials in the bench. This is like 10 years ago. And I got all his charges dismissed. And you know why it was? They took one photo of the room and they said mission accomplished.
Jesus Christ.
And it was, I just argued, how do we know whether or not those guns are props and are not? Because they didn't take a singular gun and have the lab look at it.
Yeah.
They're like, we think that's coke.
Yeah.
But so where I'm going with this, the reason I brought that up is historically, if I was law enforcement or I was the DA, I wouldn't want anyone charged. I would catch and release, because the inherent nature of somebody doing what you witnessed can be used as evidence, both what is on their person as well as their behavior surrounding it, which is you could articulate that they were likely trying to empty the place, right?
Right.
And I would operate under the notion that everyday officers are dumb as shit, and I wouldn't want them touching a singular piece of evidence and instead letting me analyze it, you know?
Yeah. So, like,
but you are right.
Remember,
I see what you're saying about the double jeopardy thing, regardless.
Yeah, and keep in mind, I was an officer in Vinewood PD 8 years ago. And so I know what it used to be like raiding properties where pretty much everyone in this whole state just had a weird hoarding fascination where everything they put into a house was always in one corner of the house. You could always find everything they had and was stashed in one small closet, right? And so, comparing to police departments 8 years ago in this state to how it is now, raiding somebody was relatively quick. You would go in and you would find wherever their hoard stash was, that whatever closet everybody was hoarding things in, and you could raid a house in minutes. It was go in, look at the whole pile of crap, document the whole pile in one go, and that was it.
Sure, and now you're dealing with God knows where something is. It could take you 2 hours to even find a hidden wall with like a hidden, weed farm.
It took us 5 hours to finish analyzing that warehouse. 5 hours. Because of all the different small containers, all the different rooms, the walls, the different things, and now we even have disassembly. Like we have sledgehammers, we can knock things loose and see what they are. Because it's really hard to tell. Like you were saying, hey, is this a prop or not? Can you prove it? Well, now we can use a sledgehammer and knock that shit off the wall and actually seize it if we think it's subject and have it tested for what it is. That's something we can actually do now. But it takes time. You have to take a lot of documenting pictures. I mean, if there's 50 little boxes in this building, you not only have to take pictures of all 50 boxes, then you need to number them. You need to label them. You have to articulate exactly what was inside each box. It takes a long fucking time for one building. So now you kind of get to a point where, okay, well, we have this individual that was captured because they shot cops outside the building while we were trying to raid it, right? Well, now we have to hold them all because if we can articulate, if we can somewhere in this giant pile of evidence that takes us 5 hours to document, we might find something that directly ties them to this, and now we need to raid all that person's stuff. Well, if the only way we can do that is we put them on a 72-hour hold. Or we charge them for the shooting cops crimes that they did outside, which is probably going to be, a few hundred months. And we just go ahead and send them up so they can go spend time in prison and do all that stuff. But instead, we're being like, well, now we have to 72-hour hold every single person involved. Because now we need to start chain robbing. We need to make sure that they're not going to go empty out their stuff. And it's just, I can see this going in a very horrible direction. I can see police departments abusing this, and there's nothing that can be done. Because by all rights and means, they have a right to 72-hour hold people on investigative holds. If I'm not mistaken, it's 72 hours.
No,
is it 24 or 72?
It's 24 hours, 72 with a DOJ approval. Held until trial, unless the writ to habeas corpus is produced.
Right. So I want to tell you,
some of the writ is
DOJ
based
approval.
Yeah.
With you saying with DOJ approval.
Yeah.
If DOJ stands by this decision that double jeopardy is going to stay in place, all we have to articulate then is, yeah, they were arrested in proximity to this facility we were performing a search and seizure warrant on. And according to your ruling, we have to hold them. Boom, DOJ approval. You're making it too easy for them.
I think a lot of the writ nowadays, writ of habeas corpus, is kind of baked into procedure, but I see your point. I do see a point. That there could be a lot of people held as a consequence. So here's my problem with the docket posting, because I did read it. I think that appeal should have the articulation written in it before getting approved.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is I didn't know. Honestly, I was winging it, Nino.
I'm not blaming you for it. That should be a procedural thing, right?
Yeah, there's a whole section of the DOJ's docket section that says, hey, these are the formats for different different things. There's actually a section that says this is how you format civil suits. This is how you format criminal suits. This is how you format appeals. But there's nothing about. There's literally one line in all legislation in the entire system that says we can appeal dismissed charges. But there's no guidance, no formats, no nothing. So I just kind of winged it. I put it in there. I was like, I'm winging it. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm winging it. Because all that appeal does is say,
hey,
we
Storm
will
is
hear
here.
Your side of the story. Oh, shit,
Storm is here.
Fuck.
Feel free to give me a call later today. I wish you all the best, and I think you're doing good work, Barrett. All right?
I'm trying.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
You stay safe.